telltale right to left flow on this camera means flow out of the north. So we're catching a bit of this northerly push from Canada, and that's not only blowing into Texas, but also into the eastern U.S., and we're getting probably the largest event so far this year out along the Atlantic coast, and you can see that right there on the Weather Service warnings depiction. Blizzard conditions there all the way from Portland down to Boston and New York and almost all the way to Philadelphia right there. So that whole area under a blizzard warning, and the remainder of the area under winter storm warnings all the way from Caribou all the way down to about Richmond. No, that's further west. I guess I'm trying to remember the name of that town inland along that interstate that runs through here. I'm totally forgetting it. Maybe Lynchburg. Anyway, yeah, right through that area. And the rest of this is temperature type advisories, freeze warnings all the way from the Ohio Valley down to the frost warnings here in Texas. Here's the temperatures for today. These are the high temperatures, and 60s and 70s for Texas, so we are above normal. Cooler air up in the western Midwest region. And then as you go into the northeast U.S., we start getting a little bit more of the cold air up there. And some of the air that's going to be reaching the New York City area, Washington, D.C. area, coming straight out of Ontario and Quebec. So pretty much right out of the continental polar source regions there. 500 millibars chart showing a little bit more of a meridional flow. So we're going to start picking up some of this stronger northerly flow as that cold air comes in. And we had been seeing a little bit more of a flat flow, kind of like that, but the flow is amplifying here today, and we can see one major wave coming through the Midwest right there, and maybe a separate wave way down here along the Gulf Coast, running through the New Orleans to Jackson, Mississippi area. And this is the 0Z chart. Since we started kind of late, we do have the benefit of seeing the 0Z data here. So that's good. Here's the 850 chart showing some northerly flow out in the northern plains right here, all the way through the Chicago area, all the way back to almost Denver, Oklahoma City. And you can see 30-knot winds coming in there through Springfield and down to Oklahoma City. The only area we have of southerly flow is out here along the Gulf Coast. And ironically, this is kind of critical for helping to prime this storm heading to the northeast, because that's transporting not only warm air, but also moisture. Latent heat release is going to be very important with this system as it approaches the coast. The 850 fronts, probably looking a bit like this right here. This is just at first glance. And then to find the warm front, we have to do our so-called imaginary car drive. Go up from Jacksonville, 9 degrees, 8 at Charleston. And then we pick up, let's see, I think that's 7 above right here at Wilmington. And then we drop down to -2. I guess that's Lynchburg again. -4 there at Sterling, -4 at Pittsburgh. So definite temperature change. So probably going to go with maybe a warm front like that. And maybe connecting back to that warm front like that, and then maybe an included front up to the remainder of the system. And this is associated with that northerly wave up in the Midwest, and then of course we have the other half of the system all the way down in the New Orleans area off to the bottom of the chart there. So if we split the difference and go up to 700 millibars, this is where we start picking up a little bit more of the waves aloft, a little bit more of the shortwave energy, so we can see that right there. Maybe one little wave through here, maybe another one through here. And also the shortwave ridges. So there's an example right there. So it's a combination of the low-level fronts and also the upper-level waves, kind of getting both of that. And in severe weather season, this is also very important for finding the capping inversions. Nothing like that right now, -2 there at Fort Worth. And when we're very strongly capped, we like to see values of about 8 to 10 Celsius. And for that, we have to go all the way back to the Phoenix and Tucson and El Paso area. Still not totally warmed up like we usually see towards the late spring. Still pretty early here. Okay, while you get a look at the satellite loops, I'll take a quick look at chat. See, we got about 10 people on, kind of a light night here, but we do have a late start. We've got Lexi here, and I guess we're up past Andrew, and Andrew's bedtime. Usually he's the first one on here. Ryan Toomeys is here. Fun with Tech. Southern Rebel is here. Ryan Toomeys mentions 612. Wow, flights canceled today in South Florida. Caleb Sluha says the flow needs to go away so I can chase some storms. Yep, we're going to be getting into chase season here before we know it. Ryan Toomeys mentions heavy backups, heavy sleet slated forecasted for Maryland and Washington. Yeah, we'll be checking that out in a little bit. We are picking up a little bit of that mixed phase precipitation in that area. So here we can see a little bit of that southerly wave. Kind of pointed that out on the 700 and 500 chart, moving through that area right there. The northerly wave is a little bit harder to find, but that's up in this area right here, up in the Midwest. It looks like a little bit of the lift goes all the way down into the eastern Gulf. This is a little bit reminiscent of what we had way back on March 13th of 93, the big superstorm, about 23 years ago, I think. We had a squall line that extended all the way into Cuba and produced damaging thunderstorms through the Cuba area as well as in Florida. Very potent squall line that moved eastward and then that moved up the coast, and then we had record-breaking snowfalls with that storm. Water vapor imagery showing the waves a little bit better here, but it's also showing some of the subsidence on the backside of the waves right there. Very strong downward lift right there over the New Orleans area out into the western Gulf. So probably a little bit like that for the major wave, and probably looking at the northerly wave up in this area. We'll check that out on the 500 millibar vorticity chart here shortly. Here's the thermal diagnostics here, thermal structure of the atmosphere, and this is actually going to be very important coming up the next 12 hours. So there's our warm front, cold front extending all the way down into the Orlando, Tampa area, then down into the Gulf. That wave we have back over the New Orleans, Biloxi area, kind of in there, that's supporting this frontal system right through here. And then I think the system we have up in the Midwest, that's probably more associated with the occluding upper level system up in that area. Then, of course, we do have to pay attention to what's going on out west. Very strong thermal gradient out in this area here, from about Nebraska, Colorado, up to the northwest. So we'll be looking for this frontal zone to start reforming perhaps in the next few days. Then things look pretty quiet out in the Pacific, but we'll take a quick look out there. We've got to go quite a ways off the Washington-Oregon coast, and then we pick up this, what looks like kind of an open wave system here out in this region right there. And then the soundings. These soundings were taken about 3 or 4 hours ago. The Dulles Sterling sounding looking like this. You can see fairly dry in the lower levels of the atmosphere. So this is a good situation here for wet bulbing of the column. In other words, when you get a lot of this precip developing in the mid-levels and precipitating into this dry air, you're going to get evaporational cooling with that. So the temperatures are going to fall down to the wet bulb temperatures. And wet bulb temperatures, those are going to fall probably about a third of the way over from the dew point to the temperature line, kind of in between like that. So that's what your temperatures there would bottom out at. And that looks like it is just below freezing. So once temperatures do fall, assuming we don't have a whole lot of warm air advection, we would see that fall below freezing here. Very moist conditions up there, and there's the top of the frontal zone up at about 790 millibars. So that's going to be up at about 7,000 feet. So some fairly deep cold air in place there. And we do see some fairly strong southerly winds. So we've got, looks like warm air advection. So that would change the column here, maybe get a little bit of warming. So we do have to kind of take that into account here. And we'll check out a couple more soundings. We'll try Wallops Island. That's going to be just south of Delaware. Looks very similar to Dulles there, maybe a slight, maybe a bit warmer here, and we do see the southerly winds there out of about 150 at maybe 20 or 30 knots. And let's check out Brookhaven, New York City. Looks quite a bit different there, and I do check that out at the bottom and verify that's 14th at 0Z. So that is current. Column is very cold here, very dry. But, of course, that could change as we get some of the warm air advection starting to build up the coast here. We do see some cirrus layers up here. Now, another way we can check out these soundings is to look at the METAR observations. Here's JFK Airport. We can see at the time when that radio sound was taken, looked like hardly any low or mid clouds, just 9,000. A little bit of altocumulus there, some broken cirrus there. Temperatures about 30. And then we see as we go on with time here, we see the development of this low cloud layer. So the changes we're getting with the system are coming on fairly quickly. And then you can see already by 4Z, the latest observation we have, winds are out of the east at 12. We have ceilings at 6,500. Overcast at 8,000. So these really came in quite a hurry here. Very rapid development. I would love to have a sequence of soundings taken here at New York City with the approach of this system. I think if NOAA was really doing some cutting edge research, that kind of thing, or even some of the universities, that's one thing that I would like to see them doing. Okay, let's head on into, let's see, maybe we can take a look at one more METAR sequence. We'll go down to Baltimore. Things are likely going to be even worse down there. So there's Baltimore International Airport. You can see the latest observation there showing 3/4 of a mile in light snow and ice pellets. So that's going to be sleet. Broken at 600, broken at 1100, overcast at 3000. So a lot of bad weather there. Temperature is 27 degrees right there. And you can see also that came on fairly quickly there too. So from about 22Z, about 6 hours ago, they were looking at 4,300 foot ceilings, 37 degrees there. Looked pretty nice there, and just in a matter of hours, things went downhill very quickly. And one little trick that you can do here is if you want to know exactly how the weather is going to deteriorate where you are, you can check out these TAFs. Again, you go to aviationweather.gov and you pull up the TAFs, and if we want to see the progression of things going downhill at JFK, for example, You just basically read the forecast there. So you can see by the worst weather we're going to have is going to be close to 11Z. That's going to be about 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. You can see they got northeast winds there, 30 gusting to 40, quarter of a mile in heavy snow, freezing fog, blowing snow, 200-foot ceilings. And then things improve as the morning goes on. Looks much better towards 21 and 02Z. So this can give you an idea of when the worst of it's going to pass. And this is composed by forecasters there at the Weather Service. There's an aviation forecaster that works with the team there at the forecast office. They have a short range, I believe they have a short range, long range forecaster, I'm trying to remember all the positions there, but the aviation, severe weather forecaster, and then the aviation forecaster is working with them. So this will give you pretty much from the horse's mouth what's going on there. And then before we get into the forecast, we'll take a quick look at the dynamics here. This is looking at the NAM. And this shows you at 0Z here, the two waves. So there's one right there moving through Louisiana and Mississippi right there. Most of the lift concentrated ahead of that. And then the other wave way up here. But these are coming together along the coast. So move that forward. There you go. Southerly wave, it looks like that's going to be the main one that's going to move up towards that area by 12Z. Most of the lift working on that area. And then we normally don't see things really improving until the 700 and 500 millibar trough passes. So when do we see that? We'll take a look at JFK here. You can see they're just under 522 decameters. This is at 12Z Wednesday morning. Looks like heights are still falling through 18Z Wednesday. And then we see the ridging start to build in. So we will have the potential there for things to remain kind of in bad shape there at JFK until likely not tomorrow morning, but Wednesday morning there. So that's one little technique you can use when you don't really have access to the high resolution rapid refresh model, the convective models, and so on. Okay, let's see here. This is the current look at the radar data. And we can kind of use some of this radar data to kind of verify how the models are doing. Okay, so right here we have the high resolution rapid refresh. Let me run this back. You can see the latest model we have here is 1Z, and right now it is 3Z, 4Z. Okay. So that's going to be a 4-hour forecast there. And you can see they've got this mixed phase precip line roughly from about Dover Air Force Base here. Looks like to just north of Richmond, and then into central Virginia here. So maybe if I want to confirm how this model is doing, I'll go and look at some of the surface data. So let me pull some of that up. We can go to aviationweather.gov. And we can check out some of those charts and see what's going on across Virginia and Maryland. We'll go to this observations here, go to METAR, and I'll click on this BWI here. So this will zoom right in on that region, and we'll get an idea how the models are doing. So they're looking for that mixed phase to run right through this area here. So we kind of want to confirm that that's what that model is painting out. And indeed, I can see, we've got snow north of that there at Baltimore. Snow there at Washington, D.C., up at Winchester, snow, up at Frederick, Camp David. I'm not too sure what some of those stations are, but yeah, it looks like that model, that high resolution rapid refresh, is pretty much dead on. And south of that line, there's your water phase right there. So looking pretty good there. So what is the progression we're looking at over the next several hours? Well, we'll run this up. We can see the main low coming up from North Carolina, right in this region right here. That's the main baroclinic zone. And the rest of the baroclinic zone is kind of shaping up in this area right here. And that was one thing I wanted to show you here. Let me go back to the SPC panel here, and I'm going to pull up the temperature, winds, and dew point. So there's our system there in North Carolina. And if we look at the temperature field, I know this map is kind of a mess. If you look at these brown lines, we can see we've got kind of like this spaghetti appearance. Brown lines all the way up the coast, pretty much parallel to the coast. And this is that baroclinic area I was talking about. Not so much offshore, but quite a bit of it up in this area right here. So that's the region that this weather system is going to be tracking. It's going to be gravitating toward this area. That's the main baroclinic zone, and looks like the heaviest baroclinicity kind of in this area, so right along the coast. And that's probably being aided by the contrast between the warm Gulf Stream waters and the cold continental region right here. And looks like there's been some cold air damming up in this area too. You can see some of that ridging in here, so maybe some of that's been going on there. So anyway, back to this high resolution rapid refresh model. We'll run that forward. And that system is going pretty much about where we're expecting, so right along the coast there. And another feature here, look at the progression here of this mixed phase region. And look at which way it moves. So going forward, you can see it tends to push northward a little bit. So warm air advection is the dominant dominant process going on here. So a little bit of the warm conveyor belt working on that area right there. And that's a bit of that warm flow coming up from the south. And we saw those very strong winds there at Sterling on the sounding. So that's helping to feed a lot of warm, buoyant lift over that cold dome right here. And then we don't see the cold advection come in until later in the morning, around 16 or 17 Z. So now we're starting to see that mixed phase line being pulled southward again, getting on the backside of the system, and this is really when the winds start picking up here. Then we get to the end of the high resolution rapid refresh run. So this is when we start really picking up the wind, and that with the snow, that's where we're getting the blizzard conditions. But fortunately, that's going to be mostly after dawn. This is a look at the wind field on the high resolution rapid refresh model. We'll back that up to 04Z about right now. So you can see kind of light winds, and one good thing you can do is verify some of this with the METAR data. But just very quickly, we can see the winds gradually picking up. And it's not really until 16 or 17 Z when we start seeing sustained winds of 15 to 20 knots through this region right here. So now we're starting to see the 20s come out at 17 Z. That's right around noon, right in this region right here. and then we get to the end of the high-resolution rapid refresh run. So that brings us to the NEM. That's one of the other convective models, and we'll just take a quick look and see where that goes with this storm. Okay, just a very quick look at that mixed phase line. It looks maybe a little bit far north compared to what the high-resolution rapid refresh model was showing. The HRR had it more out in this area here. So you kind of want to be aware of some of those differences as you go through the panels. But the timing, NEM probably a little bit slow here compared to the HRR. And then after that, we start to see the very strong pressure gradient come in the backside here. So very strong cold air advection working into New York and Pennsylvania. And remember what I said about the 500 millibar trough having to clear the area. You can see we're still getting some of these snow showers going on, even at 3Z. Even here through upstate New York there at 12Z, still got some of that showers going on. And then finally around 18Z, 21Z, it looks like even after that we're getting some snow showers coming down, and then things finally clearing out a bit towards evening there. Okay, so I think it's probably about time to look at the rest of the forecast since we're about 27 minutes in, and we'll just go ahead and pick this up and look around the rest of the U.S. Let me get this centered here, and I'll try to include some of the Northeast. So this is going to be the GFS. Okay, so GFS bringing that model, that system northeastward there, as you saw on the other models. And most of the cold air is being fed by this very large high pressure system across Ontario and Minnesota, bringing cold air from Ontario into the northeast U.S. right there, and even into Texas, as you saw there on that time lapse earlier. But we are going to start getting some of the warm air advection setting up on the high plains here tomorrow. Things will be kind of fair out in this part of the U.S. All the way probably until the weekend. One little Alberta Clipper system looks like this is actually moving a little bit to the. Let me pan up here so you can see that a little bit better. Okay, try that again. There you go. You can see that system going there through Manitoba. There's the cold front, warm front looking like that, and probably an occlusion feeding up to that system like that. So that'll move fairly quickly through the Great Lakes area. A few showers through the Appalachians. Fortunately, not quite as bad there for New York and Pennsylvania as with this other system. And that's because we don't have this very strong wave activity in the Gulf Coast. This is more of a northerly system. Then we get some of this ridging building into the central and Rocky Mountain region. Another system moves through Canada. So kind of a weak front here across the Ohio Valley area in Kansas. This is going to be around Tuesday the 21st. And then we're looking for that one system to come out of California into the Rockies around the 23rd or 24th. And there it goes. That'll be our next shot of severe weather here in this part of the Southern Plains. So we're talking in, let's see here, 22nd. Yeah, that's going to be on the 22nd there. That's going to be on Wednesday. That'll move into the southeast U.S. right here. And then maybe another shot of severe weather. That's going to be around the 25th, 26th. So it looks like we are getting that southern stream active later in the month, so that'll be the next big change right there. Looks like some more snow here for the northern panhandle up in southeastern Colorado here. This is around the 28th. And there goes that next system right here. Cold core low kind of in this area, getting a little bit of this snow shower activity back behind it. And then the main baroclinic area out in the southeastern U.S. right there. Okay, then we get to the end of that run, 384 hours out, March 29th. So April is almost within sight of the GFS. So we're starting to get out towards the middle of spring here. And let me take a quick look at chat here. Krakatoa 67 mentioned south of Tampa got a tornado earlier. Sue M is here. Krakatoa 67 says 16 to 24 inches. Forecast with blizzard warnings in MHT, New Hampshire. MHT, I think that was, I can't remember my towns there up in the Northeast. Obviously, I'm not much of a Yankee here, but yeah, that's going to be up north of Boston in there. Ryan Toomey says line of weather on radar scope showing a full line blowing up, pushing eastward currently. Tim Wathan says old Boy Scout saying be prepared. Yeah, absolutely. Good sage advice for tonight here. Ryan says moisture from the Atlantic is going to feed this monster storm system. Yep, absolutely. That and the latent heat will be fueling that big time. Mark says he'll try to get some video of the blizzard during the day. Yes, please definitely send that along if you get some video, and we'll put that on tomorrow evening. And Ryan says New York, Long Island, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Boston, Cape Cod, ground zero, heavy for this storm system. And MHT is Manchester. Okay. Thank you for that. All right. Okay, I guess that'll be it for tonight. Yeah, definitely stay safe, and we will be here tomorrow at the usual time, and we'll try to keep tabs with that system and let you know what's going on. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks.